Anyone can buy Bitcoin, wait a few years, and probably have a very good chance of being in profit. But the real skill of investing is knowing when to take profit. Here's how we're going to sell the Bitcoin peak. Today, we're going to be looking at how you can take profit at the next Bitcoin all-time high, and where better to start than the Bitcoin Pi cycle top indicator we have here on lookintobitcoin.com, which has historically not only called the exact time at when the Bitcoin peak has occurred, but also looking at the percentage difference between these moving averages and the Bitcoin price action, has pretty accurately called what price it's going to be topping out at too. If we just zoom in a little bit here, we can see when these vertical dashed lines appear. I'll just zoom in a little bit more. We can see it's when these two moving averages cross over, the 111-day moving average and the 350-day moving average multiplied by 2. And when these cross, these give us a very clear indication of when we're very much in an overheated market, and we're probably seeing Bitcoin's price topping out. And so far, it actually has a 100% track record. It's been absolutely perfect at calling the Bitcoin price action peaks. But can this indicator be relied on once more in the next cycle? So for that, we'll have to wait and see. So what we can do beforehand is maybe get a few contingency plans in place just in case we don't see across this cycle once again. So what we can do is look at something like the active address sentiment indicator. Now, this is just a really simple metric that has actually produced great returns, both buying and selling, but for this, we'll focus on the profit-taking element of it. What this is looking at is the 28-day active address change in percentage terms, giving these deviation bands above and beneath it, and then the 28-day price change in BTC too, basically to see if the price increase is warranted by the increase or decrease in users we're seeing. So if we just zoom in again on the previous all-time high, we can see that once this crosses beneath this upper red deviation band, it's actually a really good period to start taking profit in your positions. Now, in the previous cycles, we didn't have quite as many crosses as we did in the most recent cycle, which was a double peak cycle. So we had lots of sell signals prior to that. In the 2017-2018 cycle, we could see it did give us a sell signal very close to the top, but Bitcoin's price had already retraced about 20% prior to the cross. So we'd missed out on a little bit there, and the crosses just before the actual peak were a little bit before, too much before that. So we maybe can use this as an additional part of confluence to maybe take additional profit. If we get this signal near the top, maybe increase the profit taking a few percent. But what we can also do is look at some other metrics. So the MVRVZ score, again, one that has practically a 100% record in calling the exact Bitcoin price action peak. Now, this is looking at the realized price, which is the average cost basis of all BTC on the network, aggregating that so we can almost see the average entry price of all market participants. And then once we actually divide the market cap by that and standardize for the volatility, we get this MVRVZ score. But one interesting thing to note is this has actually been decreasing a little bit. So even though we did get a sell signal in the most recent cycle, what we need to take into account is this is actually going on a bit of a downwards trend. So we may not actually get a peak on this metric all the way into this red sell area in this cycle. We need to prepare that that may not happen. So as you can maybe see by this previously drawn red line, what we can do is maybe consider profit taking once we increase above this line. So once Bitcoin's MVRVZ score does something like this, crosses above this line, maybe not all this way up, we can start taking profits at set intervals as this continues to increase. So how do we know how much to actually start selling? Well, one thing I'm going to be looking at is the 200 weekly moving average. What we can do is look at this, especially on the hourly, is super powerful. But even on the daily chart, what we can do is actually look to see how much this is actually increased and then take profit in relation to that percentage change. So if I go back to the 1 hour, we can see here, these red dots are indicating that Bitcoin's price action has resulted in this 200 weekly moving average increasing by over 10%, which is a pretty massive increase on this average. So once we get these red dots, it's a really clear indication that maybe the market's getting a little bit too overheated as this continues to increase at a very exponential rate. So what we can do is if we just isolate this area here, every single day that this is printing one of these signals, we can say that maybe once it's above 8% or something, every single day we get one of these signals, we can divide the valuation of the percentage increase by 10 and take profit that amount. So that might sound very complicated, but just as an example, if we get one of these signals here and we see it's a red dot, we can see it's a 10% increase in the 200 weekly moving average on that day. Divide that by 10, take 1% profit on your position on that day. And again, even if it was at the all-time high here, on the exact day that the Bitcoin all-time high was reached. So Again, not a perfect way to sell exactly all of your capital exactly at the peak, but one thing we need to take into account is that that is impossible to do. You need to really tell yourself now that you're not going to wait until the exact Bitcoin peak and sell 100% of your position, because it is just impossible to do. Almost no one can do this, and especially no one can do this on a multi-cycle basis. No one has done that multiple times in a row. So we need to look at plans at how we can actually scale out of positions. I think that is going to be the most important way to secure the highest profit possible and really make sure you actually do sell some of your position on that highest day. If we're just selling a few percent of our position at a time, every day, every week, however frequently it may be, that is the best way we can really secure as much profits as possible, especially alongside some shorter term metrics, something like the Crosby ratio, which works great on the daily time frame here. If we just isolate here, we can see this has given us signals on the Bitcoin all-time high in every single cycle, and especially this most recent cycle. If we were to take action on these sell signals here, we'd have taken profit pretty much exactly at the all-time high. But if we go onto TradingView here, what we actually can do is use the TradingView iteration of this indicator, which is included with a look into Bitcoin site subscription, and then we can actually apply this metric not only to the daily time frame, but we can actually drop down to a lower time frame to get even more precise and lower time frame sell signals to make sure we're taking profit at the absolute peak. So here I'm just on the 4-hour time frame with the Crosby ratio, as this works on any time frame, any ticker, and we can see as Bitcoin was making its first few all-time highs above $60,000, we were getting multiple sell signals. And especially if we zoom in here onto the actual candle of the all-time high, we can see we actually got a sell signal exactly then. So absolutely perfect signal. Once you actually use this as confluence alongside some other metrics, it's a really, really powerful way to ensure you're taking profit at the absolute peak. Obviously, the pi cycle top indicator would be great if we can use that, but something like the golden ratio multiplier alongside either the active address sentiment indicator or the Crosby ratio, so we can actually see a variable level of resistance alongside a metric telling us that we're very much overheated and that a reversal is likely. We can actually really ensure that we're taking profit at the all-time high. But like we said, do not try and sell everything on the first signal you get. If you're getting a Crosby ratio, active address, MVRV, whatever signal it may be, do not sell 100% of your position immediately, because you may miss the top by $10, $20, $100,000. Or if you're selling too little, you need to make sure that you are actually taking enough. Otherwise, again, you're going to take 1%, 2% profit and then be holding that Bitcoin you were hoping to sell at the peak all throughout to the next cycle. So if you actually combine, look for confluence throughout multiple metrics, the 200 weekly moving average to know how much to sell, the Crosby ratio or the active address to know when to sell, and then something like the golden ratio multiplier to know exactly at what price we should be putting our potential take profit orders in as well, you're going to do a hell of a lot better than a vast majority of market participants. And again, if something like the MVRV Z-score gives us one of these sell signals, or the pi cycle top gives us the exact timing signal, then again, use this all as confluence. We can use all of these, aggregate them up to really ensure we're taking profit at the absolute Bitcoin price peak. Also, if you haven't already, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to ensure you're receiving all of our content as soon as it's released. And make sure to check out all the resources we've discussed today, as well as the many more that are all available on lookintobitcoin.com, your #1 source for Bitcoin information. So just to summarize, timing profit taking with your investing is one of the hardest skills to master. And there's a chance you'll either sell too early and miss additional gains, or maybe even sell too late and look back at how much you could have had. So while there's a number of metrics that can assist with profit taking, we can't rely on any one of them to be the holy grail signal. As good as the pi cycle top has been, as good as the MVRV Z-score has been, ultimately there is going to come a time when they don't work perfectly. So we need contingency plans and a real good robust strategy that doesn't rely on emotion to really ensure we're taking profit at the most opportune moments. And also take into account that scaling out of your positions is the only way we're going to ensure that you're likely taking profit as close to the peak as possible, and parting with just a small percentage of your stack with each strategy signal and emotionally disconnecting is definitely the way to maximize your gains. Just as buying at the exact Bitcoin bottom is practically impossible to do. We need to dollar cost average into our positions. We need to do the exact same for the taking profit. We need to dollar cost average out of our positions alongside Confluence to really maximize our efficiency. If you like this video, then please visit lookintobitcoin.com, where you can also consider becoming a site subscriber to gain access to professional resolution charts, advanced macro and portfolio data tools, in-depth crypto industry reports, live and personalized indicator alerts, private TradingView scripts, and more, all for a fraction of the standard industry price. And let me know down in the comments below and on social media, how are you going to make sure you're taking profit at the exact Bitcoin price peak in the next cycle? Are you going to try and scale out 100%, or are you going to try and do it in intervals using multiple metrics of Confluence like I will be doing? As I said, let me know. I look forward to reading and replying to all of them. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.